We have just come back from the interview with JJ. We wanted to take this opportunity to share with y'all our experiences of the breathwork session. If you could rate it, 0 being no stress at all and 10 being the highest, where would you rate yourself on a normal day to day?
Like an 8 to a 12.
And now?
Now I'm down at like a 3, 2.
It was this overwhelming sense of relief.
I'm definitely doing it again. And welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shira.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karista, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Love Always Self. Hi.
Hello.
We have just come back from doing the interview with JJ, and we wanted to do a part 2 about our breathwork session that he performed for us or guided us through. And so if you haven't seen his interview, go back and check out the last episode. It aired on April 3rd, and take a look at that. It was just an incredible conversation. We could have gone on probably a whole nother hour, but he had other prior obligations, so he had to jet. But we wanted to take this opportunity to just share with y'all our experiences of the breathwork session.
It was good. It was really good. In the conversation with JJ, please definitely go watch that. Such valuable information in that episode. But when we were talking with him, like before we got started, and he was giving us the information, what was so unique about that experience is that he was at the quick pace in like the way he was explaining things, but yet somehow everything was really digestible. And so it was easy to like understand because of the way he described things, which was beautiful. So it was like soothing, but yet at the pace that I like hearing people talk when they talk to me.
And he kept checking in with us to make sure that we were understanding the information that he was providing us. So it was nice and reassuring that he was checking in with us too the entire time.
Exactly.
So not just during the information that he was giving at the beginning, but also throughout the session. His presence was known.
Yeah.
And that in itself developed a level of trust.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know. I felt very like secure with him being in our presence, which was awesome. That's normally I have a lot more discernment with people,
like being in our space and coming by and just like correcting something gently with like a gentle touch or something like that. Absolutely. And so it felt, I mean, like not even just safe, but it felt loving.
Yeah, it was very caring. And I had this like predisposed, and we do touch on this in the episode a little bit, but to elaborate more on that piece of it, I definitely had this like predisposed thought process. And maybe it's because of what you see on social media or other YouTube channels or maybe the information that is given to you ahead of something where you start to adapt the thought of something based on somebody else's experience, right?
Yeah. So letting somebody else's experience influence your experience.
Exactly. Which is interesting because I remember having this exact same conversation with my GYN about going and getting mammograms done. And when I went and had it for the very first time, I remember the technician saying like, we always encourage that you don't share your experience with other women so they will come in and get it done.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Oh,
and so
you mean like
don't...
sharing your experience of pancake boobies? Like,
right.
You mean nobody enjoys that?
But
I can't wait for my first one.
Yeah. But like in order to like not instill fear,
yes,
towards somebody else's upcoming experience, because it's such an important thing to get done. But yeah, so I feel the same, but it was different than what I thought it was going to be. Not in its entirety by any means, but it was definitely different than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to actually feel like a workout, because
we were warned by other people who have done it that it will feel like a workout. It felt like opposite of a workout. In a way.
Yeah.
Like a workout makes you sweat.
Yeah.
And we were definitely colder.
Yeah.
which he said that temperature changes are experienced during the session.
And my menopause this morning was on full force.
It was on
Like,
fire.
it was on fire. Like, I was like, oh my God, please stop the heat. Like, make it stop. And so when my body temperature cooled down during that session, I was like,
Exercise.
exercise. It's not exercise. But when my body temperature cooled down during that session, it was like this overwhelming relief. Because I'm usually like right now I had to put a hoodie on to like actually warm up a bit because my temperature cooled down so much. And I was like, oh, what is that?
But it is an exercise. Like, it's not an exercise in the sense that we're used to as far as like going to the gym, lifting weights, getting sweaty, things like that. But it is an exercise in not only lung capacity, but also like relaxation, right? And connecting with your body in a different way that you normally do. So exercise, you connect with your body and like which muscle groups that you are focused on that you're working out that day. Well, this muscle group that we were working on was in the lung space, so the diaphragm and the accessory muscles around the rib cage and up through the neck and the shoulders, but all while laying down.
Yeah, that's the part I think that I was actually even more surprised when he's like, well, you're going to actually mostly be laying down. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, oh, I didn't know that.
Which I think is really smart because, as he mentioned in the episode, there is structured hyperventilation. And when we are doing unstructured hyperventilation, many of us will experience lightheadedness, dizziness, maybe fainting, things like that. So I think it's a safe position to assume during a breathwork session.
Oh no, I definitely would have like fell over if I had not been laying down. So
at the end of it,
it
was a little like, whoa.
I was like, I stood up and I was like, oh snap, the room is an ocean.
Yeah. I started walking before I made sure my head was connected. And he was like, oh, I was like, thanks. But just to dive a little bit into the session itself, he started off by just showing us several breathwork combinations that we were going to utilize during the actual session. So during the information portion at the very beginning, where he was explaining how breathwork impacts our nervous system, he also walked us through those combinations so that we knew a little bit better about what he was telling us to do while we were laying down. He also did an intention setting at the very beginning, saying that our focus this session is on unity. And
that was cool.
Yeah, I love that.
Also unexpected.
It was totally unexpected. Yeah. And, you know, he gave us eye masks to wear, had us lay down, encouraged us to also have blankets because, again,
I'm so glad
the
he
temperature,
said that.
fluctuations were real.
Yeah.
I definitely ended up pulling the blanket all the way up to my chest, or tried to. He saw it. He actually did it, which I appreciated. And again, it just reaffirmed that caring nature and the caring awareness that he carries during these sessions.
Yeah.
And then he asked us, once he confirmed that the intention was focused on unity, he asked to just take a minute and evaluate what that word means to us, like what the first thought was that came up in our head.
That was so beautiful.
And again, mind you, we are laying down, we're silent. He's got music on. He's doing the instruction at this point with our eye masks on. And so we are in our own headspaces at this point, just allowing these thoughts to come forward. And so he asked us to just take a minute and think about or be aware of what comes up. Let the mind relax, just being aware. And
what did you get? Like, what was your symbolism for unity?
So the memories that came up first, so when I was a child, the first church that I went to was called Unity Church. And I haven't been to that church in like 30 something years.
Wow.
And to have that be the first thing that comes up, and not just the church itself, but the experience of the congregation singing together. And then I started seeing different congregations I've attended throughout the last several decades and seeing and experiencing the song that emanates throughout the church. And I've shared a story in the past, not too long ago, maybe a few episodes back, where my mom and I, we were traveling out of the country. We were trying to get back into Austin, but we got stuck in the Atlanta airport, and we ended up singing with strangers, like multiple, like this large group of strangers, and people came and watched in the terminal and things like that. So that was another memory that came up. And I was recognizing this connection through music.
Yeah.
And even, not just like the words that are used in the music, but the sound, the vibration that's created. And then while I was experiencing that and the songs that were coming up, I started to visualize, there's an animation that I know I've seen, and it's probably fairly popular, but the globe, the Earth, with a diverse group of people wrapped around holding hands.
Oh, that's so weird. Okay.
Why is that weird, Shira?
I'm like, what? I'm sorry. This is the first time I'm hearing this. So this is the thing about her and I. We get in the same space, and sometimes I feel like you and I are in sync,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Which is even more ironic because I thought of unity as, like, when he said, "What does unity mean to you?" The first thing I saw in my mind's eye was a heart, like emoji. The mind, like the mind emoji, and that being synchronized. And then I saw the globe. And then I got the infinity symbol, and how and so my thought process was the heart, mind, and universal synchronicity and connection. Right. So I just find it interesting that you got a globe and I got a globe.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little bit different, but still.
And it's
like,
still under all, like, the same umbrella of love too.
Right. Right.
So
Wow.
I mean, there's no doubt we're best friends.
I mean, it makes sense. Makes sense.
Then he walked us through or guided us through several of those combinations where we did the structured hyperventilation. Then we started to have body sensations beyond the temperature changes that we experienced within our body.
Yeah.
That was wild. That was way more intense than I anticipated.
I mean, my upper lip, only on one side, on my right side, my upper lip was like vibrating and like twitching.
I know that you said this afterwards too, but it was like our entire bodies were vibrating.
And it was interesting to me because in my head, I was like, this is weird. I feel like I'm on a slight levitation over a vibrating table.
Yes.
My entire body is literally like, but I was very focused on the fact that my upper right lip was like vibrating.
Yeah.
Like not even a twitch, like a vibration that would maybe look like a twitch.
And to reaffirm the level of best friendedness here is my same lip on the right side weird. Was twitching.
It's so weird. It's impressive and weird at the same time, like, oh my God, that's so cool. And like, oh, that's weird.
Like, I wonder why.
I know. What is with the lip?
But, I anticipated that there was going to be some like tingling sensation because when you hyperventilate, it elicits that tingling sensation.
Yeah.
But when I tell you it's beyond the tingling, it is beyond the tingling.
Yeah.
It's like your whole body, like you said. It's not even like you're on the vibrating table. It's like the air around you is vibrating into you. And you're right. I felt like I was levitating as well.
Just like this much,
I lost
a little pinch.
Yeah, I lost awareness of the sensation of laying on the yoga mat.
Yeah. There were times where I wasn't even like focused on that anymore.
No.
I was like, there was all this activity happening in what should be a very dark space with your eyes closed and a full blackout mask on, you would think that you wouldn't see all the light.
Mm-hmm.
But I was seeing so much light.
Mm-hmm.
And and so there were times where I was so focused on this, like, wow, that's really cool. Like, what am I looking at? Even
Yeah.
though my eyes are closed. And my body's vibrating, my upper lip is vibrating. Like, I'm like, what? Wait, what did he just say? Like, wait, am I actually breathing at the pace that I'm supposed to be? Like, there would be times that I would like disconnect
Yeah.
from my surroundings and I was so present, but I was still doing the breathing. I was still going with the
Mm.
instruction, but there were times where I was like, wait a minute, am I still doing it?
Yeah.
And I had to think about that for a minute, which was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The vibrations, they definitely traveled.
Yeah.
There were moments where it felt like it was full body. There were moments where it was more feet and hands. I I became aware that I had a lot of vibration, like towards the middle of it. I had a lot of vibration happening in my like solar plexus, in my heart
Yeah.
chakra area, and in my throat chakra area. And it was really intense it felt like a couple minutes. And then I don't remember exactly what the instruction was, maybe a full exhale and a hold, but it was like all of a sudden everything rushed upwards and it was like I felt my eyes kind of rolling in the back of my head. And that's when I saw this like blue white light just like kind of like come down from above and sit like just in this general area that I sensed.
Interesting. Yeah. I was playing with this blue light. It was doing this like dance. So imagine like a animated star, but mixed with a little bit of a blob. So it was like blob star. Best way I know how to describe that. Sorry. But it was kind of going a bit with my thought, but also a bit with the music we were hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would see the flare of the star shoot out to the left, and then like the tone of the music would change, or the beat of the music would change, and it would flare out to the right. And I was just like, I even feel like at some point while my head was on this pillow, I think I tilted my head like, what are you? Because I was so fascinated by this like dancing orb slash star of blue
Mm.
light, and I'm like, wow, this is cool. I didn't even think to ask, like, what are you? It was just
Yeah.
like, I'm so fascinated.
Well, and I think that was a little bit of what was encouraged was just to be observant without
Yeah.
necessarily going deeper into things, like
Yeah.
just being aware of what comes up. Speaking of what comes up, did you have any other like memories or any other things that came up during it?
Well, my experience was interesting. It was interesting because what happened was as I was observing that blue light with the dancing flares or whatever, all of a sudden this face just like pops right into me, like right in front of me. And it was clear as day, as realistic looking as you and I sitting here. I saw full color of this person. They were speaking to me, but without talking.
Like
So
mind to mind kind of.
right, right. So there was no lips moving of any sort, but there was like the smile, and I got the full like facial hair,
Mm-hmm.
which was like this, what do you call that?
Full Manchu, right?
Yeah, like the beard and goatee
Yeah.
combined. And then he was like pointing at his nose, and he was like lifting his head back a little bit and pointing at his nose, like mention the largeness of this nose.
Mm.
And I'm like, this isn't for me. This is for him, our instructor. And then I got like, he showed me this like very playful kind of dude. And he showed me, or like, he went from like this like playful, like, look at this nose, like, make sure you mention this nose, and says his name and everything. And then all of a sudden he has his hands cupped together and he tilts it and he shows it to me that it's a stone. But I heard him in my head say soapstone.
Hmm.
And then I see him put it into this like altar, but I also knew it was a gift. But the gift wasn't for me, it was for our instructor.
Interesting. Oh.
And so it was just very cool. And then he just kind of like went away. And then I was seeing this like white light kind of like flaring behind a silhouette of buildings. Yeah, that part was a little strange, but the whole time I realized after witnessing that I had positioned my hands outward from my side, from like having my hands on my stomach to outward on my side, and my palms were up.
Mm-hmm.
When I put my palms down, facing down, because I was kind of trying to temperament that a little bit, just like, oh, that's really connected right now. And I put my palms down, the vibration stayed strong, but it changed. It changed its like level of the way it was vibrating. Like, God, how do you even explain this? So, and I'm sorry, and even our instructor said this. He was like, you just need to, I can explain it to you all day long, but you need to experience it
Yeah.
in order to fully understand
Because
and grasp
everybody's,
it.
like he said,
Yeah.
everybody's individual. Everybody has a unique experience. And so
Yeah.
this is us sharing our unique experiences.
It's very true. But the best way I know how to describe this is like, the like Chuck E. Cheese, and they have the balls, those plastic balls that kids jump into.
The ball pit.
The ball pit. Thank you. So imagine all those, that entire ball pit was on a vibration, right? But
Vibrating balls.
Vibrating balls. We went there. We did. I'm sorry. But yeah, kind of. So,
We like to embody our child self.
Why not? Why not? Welcome. So imagine being in one of those ball pits as a kid, and like all the ball size was, God, this is just getting worse. This is just getting worse. So the ball size is a little bit bigger, and they're all vibrating around you, and you would feel that, right?
Oh, sorry. Continue.
No, this is happening. So the vibrating. Oh my God. I don't know how else to explain this besides the damn ball pit now. So
Just stop saying vibrating balls and keep going.
I don't know how to not say vibrating
You've
balls.
already said it.
So
Okay.
So imagine that those plastic balls were were larger in size, and you're surrounded by that, and that's what you're feeling because you can feel the largeness of it, right? But then they got smaller. When I put my palms down, imagine being surrounded by that in much smaller fashion, So that's the difference. And that's the difference that I'm trying to explain. And there was no balls.
Smaller balls versus bigger balls. Got it.
Damn it. Oh, man. So I said bubble bath. I don't even know. Large bubbles versus small bubbles.
There you go. That would have been better.
Yeah.
Balls.
Should I start over?
Why is that word so funny right now? Yes, please continue.
I'm actually gonna switch this to bubble bath. I don't know if we should post that.
We're totally gonna keep it on.
Oh no! Oh no!
It's too funny.
But yeah, that was what that felt like when I put my palms down, and I was no longer seeing the figure, but I was still receiving the messages, and the messages never stopped the entire time he was present with us from that point. Now, honestly, I didn't do any kind of like closing activity. To be honest.
But did you do any opening activity?
No, I don't think so. I think my conscience, I don't know. My consciousness seemed very open and connected. And that part was kind of cool for me because it was
the
so
intention
vivid.
was unity.
It's true. That's true.
Connection.
And ironically, when unity and the infinite loop, which is part of our logo for here, I saw it at one point when he said something. I can't remember exactly what he said. The infinity loop was the size of the planet, and it wrapped around the planet like it gave it a hug.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool. Like it just bent around the planet. And I was like, that's awesome. What was interesting too is that at one point he asked us to hold hands.
Oh man.
And I had to find you first because I was like, where are you?
well, first of all, he preemptively told us that it's not uncommon for people to experience and express emotion during the session. So whether it's laughter, crying, even yawning is pretty common.
Yeah.
I actually didn't at all.
You didn't yawn at all?
No.
Oh my gosh.
And so my experience, like I was I was just fine the whole time. Like I felt very even keeled. Like I was almost like I felt like I was going through this awareness of being on my own and being okay.
Hmm.
And I had several different like childhood memories come up throughout. Um, and then we'll go into that part because that was towards the end of the session when we
Yeah.
were told to hold hands. But I had several memories come up and at one point I felt pain. I felt a little bit of pain on my face, and the first memory that came up was when I broke my nose playing softball, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird," and I just let it go. And with the lip twitching, my first thought was smiling, and this connection to feeling like I have to always present myself as this upbeat, happy, welcoming, loving being. Not to say that that's wrong or bad by any means, but there was no, um, not to say that there was no space for it, but I was very encouraged
Yeah.
towards that. And whether that was through my parental upbringing or whether that was through dance, because I did dance for 20 years of the first part of my life.
I was going to say, I was like, when you're in dance, like you could have been having a really bad day, but your job is to be smiling and entertaining, right?
Right. You
You
perform.
perform.
And we prepare all year long to put on these performances. And when it came to high school, I was in drill team and in college as well. And so it was literally drilled into us to make sure a smile is plastered on our
Wow.
face. And so those were the thoughts that came up, that I was taught to or trained to be this like presentation. And it just was an awareness, not necessarily, I didn't have any thoughts next to it because I was really just trying to allow stuff to come up organically and not get attached to things. Like I'll do some work later about like, okay, well, why did this come up?
Yeah.
But it was just interesting because that's not something that I think about a lot or
Not,
hardly ever. It's just at this point, I just consider it in my nature to
yeah.
smile at people.
Well, and I mean, let's be honest, like, is that something you thought would have even been a potential of a breathwork class?
Mm-mm.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Like I didn't expect any of that.
I had one other. I'm using quotation fingers memory, because I'm still not 100% convinced like it was a memory. Like I'm doubting, second guessing it. But I had this moment where, I recognized everything was dark and it was like, it felt a little like muffled. And it's not that JJ was muffled or the sound from the music that was playing through the TV wasn't muffled, but I recognized like it felt like I was in a womb.
Hmm.
And I became aware of discourse outside of the womb between my parents. Now, the reason I'm second guessing whether that's really a memory or not is because I've been told stories about that time of the beginning of my existence. But it was just like, why, like it's really interesting
Yeah.
and curious as to why these things came up. So I jotted some notes down. I'll do some
Yeah.
more reflection and self-evaluation later today, but it's just wild.
Yeah.
And it feels random.
The ear thing too.
What ear thing?
The hearing. Like I would lose hearing on one side and then it would switch to the other. But not lose fully, like, but it was muffled.
Yeah.
Like what you were saying, but I didn't get any womb experience of any sort, but like it was almost like somebody just put like earmuffs on, but on one side
Right.
and then like switched it to the other.
Weird.
I was like, that's weird.
So during that, first half of it, I was just kind of like floating through my existence in a sense, like,
That's a
okay,
nice way to put it. Yeah.
like I've done a lot of things, like I've made my way through a lot of experiences and I've been okay. And it was like this reassurance that I'm okay by myself. And so that's what I wanted to share
Yeah.
before he instructed us to hold hands. Now
Oh,
again,
wow.
yeah, like that I was okay by
Yeah.
myself. And I didn't feel like any intense emotions at all during that first part.
Me neither.
It was more of just like, huh, that's interesting.
I think mine was mostly just
Or
shock. But
wow,
yeah.
that's a strong vibration.
Yeah.
Um And so when he instructed us to hold hands, I actually almost started laughing because you were searching and I finally grabbed your wrist.
Thank you, by the way. I was like, I really hope I don't reach too far. Like,
Boobies.
right. I was like, this is a touch and go sitch.
Literally. And so it was, it kind of like blew me away as soon as we connected hands.
Yeah.
And we shared this afterwards. But again, I wasn't aware what Shira was experiencing during this.
And I wasn't aware of hers either.
But tears just started like flowing.
I couldn't even stop it. It was just
No.
like, meh.
And it was like this awareness of, but you're never alone.
Yeah.
You never have to do this alone. You were always supported and you were always loved. And despite feeling fine, it was like this overwhelming sense of relief as soon as we connected hands.
That's exactly what I got. This overwhelming sense of like, you're okay. People love you. You're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you have a best friend and you're fortunate for that.
Mm-hmm.
And not even like you're fortunate to have that situation. It was just like, you have a best friend and she loves you. And
An immense amount of gratitude.
that's it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like an overwhelming sense of that love though.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that I've not ever felt that before, but it was just different and it was unique in that experience.
It was like everything was cleared off the table.
Right.
And that was the only
good way to say that.
thing that was present for us to be aware of in that moment.
Yeah. And I know that he mentioned that he tends to pick themes. That's not a theme. What did he call it? The
intention.
Thank you. He picks intentions and I can tell he's observant. You know, like you can tell that about him when he's talking and he's like looking back and forth. He makes very clear eye contact, but very rarely, and there's very few people in my life that I will stay in eye contact with while talking to them. I tend to look away because I also know that I pick up a lot of information when I make eye contact with some people, and some people I don't want to know that.
Yeah, you don't want to receive from them.
So, so anyway, that was different though. That was like a very cool, safe. It felt so safe. I don't know how else to explain that besides this like overwhelming sense of care, love, and safety. And it's just rare. It's a rare experience to feel like that for that long of a period of time and not be in this like defense mode of some sort.
It was like he immediately was able to develop a level of trust in us for him.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that on the last episode that was one of the like first like feelings that you got was trust. And I was like, huh, like that's an interesting choice of description.
Yeah.
But, I felt safe. And to feel safe, you need to trust.
Right.
So it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think that part of and I know this about myself,
Mhm.
right? Like I am protective of my friends and my family. And I always want to make sure that they feel safe in the environment around me.
Mhm.
And so
To have somebody else do that for you.
right. It was really nice. And like also we're in my house. You know,
Yeah.
it's like everything I hold extremely dear is in this house with me right now.
I'm right here. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
So,
and husband.
and husband and dog and yeah. And so it was just kind of like I was definitely like ensuring that we had that safety and
Yeah.
I was relieved that I didn't have to feel that way.
Yeah.
And normally I don't have that experience. Like even if like a plumber that has done work in our house 100 times, like I still feel
'Cause
guarded. Right.
you're right.
Yeah.
That's a astute observation
Hmm.
because like when we have the cleaners come over,
Yeah.
we make sure we're there.
Yeah.
And it was different. Like we had never met JJ prior to today.
Nope.
I've chatted with him a few times over emails over the last couple of weeks, and that is it.
Yeah.
Of course, we did some research, listened to some of his podcasts and
Obviously.
stuff like that. But his presence in itself, it was, he was, I explained this to you earlier, like he was high energy, but not overwhelming. So I'm thinking of like on a scale, and this is like high overwhelming, and
Yeah.
this is low
Yeah.
overwhelming. And then he was like high balanced.
Yeah. Yeah. Very high balanced.
And it was he was joyful,
Funny.
funny, intelligent. He was educational, non-judgmental.
And I still can't get over the synchronicity of his background
Coming from IT.
coming from the tech industry, which is where, you know, my space is. And so it's just like, wait, what?
And
Like, how
knowing
is that?
that he's built this
Mm-hmm.
based on his passions of understanding and optimizing systems and humans.
Like that part right there was so impressive to me just because it's like, right, we take these things and you can still do this. We take these things that we learn in our education for careers and things like that, and you do still apply it in maybe in a more micro way. Like you still apply it, you know, in your day-to-day life and how you operate and how you work. But he actually found a way to take it to the next level and build an entire new career off
Right.
of that.
Mhm.
Which I thought was so impressive to like find inspiration.
Mhm.
So not only was there a trust being built there and a sense of security and safety, but there was also inspiration from this individual.
Absolutely.
And so that part was also awe inspiring, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all, like, I don't think I could encourage this
Oh my gosh.
enough. I think it's something that it's worth checking out and experiencing at least once for yourself.
Absolutely.
I'm very interested in doing it again.
I'm definitely doing it again.
And, you know, above all else, at least having a tool to help us in our day to day to work on our stress management. Because Lord knows we have so much working against us as far as the stress like bombarding us on a regular basis. You are worth that rest, that recovery, that recharging,
Yeah.
that self-care, that body care. And not only that, but this breathing work that you're doing, it's actually helping to not only reset and balance the nervous system, but it's also actually helping to regulate other systems in the body that are affected by oxygen and carbon dioxide, stress, inflammation, which is the majority of our metabolic diseases like diabetes, hypertension. Stress is a huge factor that we tend to negate because we feel like we can't control it or manage it well or easily. but you breathe unconsciously all day, every day. If you don't, you're dead. And so why not take it one step further and take 30 seconds to utilize a breathing technique or becoming aware of your breath so you know where it's at, whether it's the top of the chest in that fight or flight state or that bottom of the lungs for that rest and digest state, and becoming aware so that you begin to develop that relationship, and then utilizing the free breath to help with that stress management so that you can become this more optimized physical, mental, and spiritual being.
I couldn't agree more than everything you just said.
Copy paste.
Copy paste. Do that. Do what she said. And I'll leave with this. I am usually at a pretty high stress level, at least 5 days a week.
If you could rate it, 0 being no stress at all, most relaxed state ever, and 10 being the highest level of panic, where would you rate yourself on a normal day to day?
Every 30 minutes to an hour, I probably go from like an 8 to a 12. I range between somewhere in that, right?
And where would you rate yourself now?
And right now I'm down at like a 3, 2. That right there in itself, I forgot what it felt like
I was about to
be
ask,
completely
when was the last time you felt this relaxed?
I think maybe Jamaica.
2021.
2021. Yeah.
Well, you are worth feeling more relaxed on a regular basis.
Well, so are you, and so are you.
Again, if you haven't checked out the last episode, please go check that out. JJ is absolutely amazing. If you have other breathwork guides in your area, please go check them out. JJ also has a YouTube channel where he actually, I think, has some other demonstrations as well. And I'm sure there's other free guided, breathwork things that you can find. It's out there.
It is.
All you have to do is take that first step for yourself. And to help you take that first step, JJ has gifted our Love Always Self listeners with 50% off his beginner breathwork exploration session. With this session, you will begin to unlock the transformative potential of your breath, strengthen your nervous system, and become more resilient to daily stressors. To claim this gift from JJ, go to www.jjruescas.gumroad.com and apply the discount code LOVEALWAYSSELF, one word, no punctuation, at checkout for 50% off.
And we'll link that episode as well. I'm
also going to throw his website down below again, so you guys can find his podcast, his YouTube channel, his About Me, his coaching information, his breathwork information.
Lot of really good interviews on his podcast. So yeah.
Oh my gosh,
support.
I found some really good interviews of him where he's on other people's podcasts, and then I've seen some of his interviews and. Everything is gold.
It's gold. Hey, speaking of gold, help us out and help us help you. Hit that like, subscribe button, notification bells if you like our content and would like to be notified of future content. And of course, we have social media. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Facebook.
It's a different order every time.
I like to spice it up a bit, Speaking of spicing things up,
we have a website. It's at lovealwaysself.com. If you have any questions or comments or additional feedback, some different topics you'd like to have us investigate or dive deeper down, you can also send us an email at contact@lovealwaysself.com.
We actually have some pretty awesome ideas coming forward for this channel and for this podcast. We've got other interviews planned. Maybe we're even looking at bringing bringing back people's journey. So
We did invite JJ to come
mhm.
back for a people's journey. I think that's going to be a really wonderful conversation as well. I always love our people's journeys
Yeah.
interviews where they dive deeper into their own spiritual journey throughout their life that they've experienced thus far.
There's a lot of like really good nuggets and relatability in that content. And if you are not familiar with that, we have a actual special playlist in our YouTube channel. So you can check that out from the homepage.
Guys, we just want to thank you for being here today. We love and appreciate you so much. And please don't forget to love first
Love last.
and love always.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shira.
And until next time, remember to love first
Love last.
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.